Hello, my loves. Continue to update new stories on Reddit, and don't forget, if you like it, please subscribe and like it. Now let's start new stories. Story: My partner, 20M, and I, 21M, have different values. Should we break up? To get things straight, I respect my partner very much. We meet each other's emotional needs. Our communication is great, and we respect and unconditionally support each other. However, I'm deeply scared because of our radical differences in values. I'll provide brief examples to illustrate these differences. For instance, on family, he deeply values blood ties, while I believe family should be a unit made out of love that one can choose. He believes children must love their parents because they gave them life, while I think parents must earn a child's respect. We both want to have children, but for radically different reasons. He sees children as a way to leave a legacy, and he has expressed that he would pressure his children to have their own children so he can have grandchildren. I see children as an opportunity to learn and develop virtues, and I plan to give full autonomy to my children. I see my legacy through my work and the ideas I pass on to those who look up to me. He also has expressed how he would pass on gender expectations to his children. He would pierce his daughter's ears and dress her in ballgowns. I would fiercely oppose any body modifications without consent and believe in dressing children in comfortable clothes, allowing for play. I would have no issue if my child turns out to be girly, tomboy, or even transgender. Our backgrounds also lead to misunderstandings. I was raised in a wealthy Latin American household by extremely liberal parents, while he was also raised in Latin America, but his family is middle class. My background has pushed me to believe in smart work rather than hard work. As my parents made their wealth from social connections and strategic investment, he believes not in smart work but in hard work from rule following. He was raised to follow the rules and aim for traditional measurements of high achievement. I was raised with complete freedom to be autonomous, with no parental expectations, and with just support for my decisions. My parents even allowed me to homeschool myself with the support of great educators. This led me to an elite school, a 4.0 GPA in CS, and to build my own software company. I want to know how to approach a long-term relationship. On one hand, he recently turned 20, is still figuring things out, and is heavily reliant on his parents. He might grow to at least understand my outlook on life, which he currently respects but doesn't fully comprehend. Despite our love for each other, should I consider breaking up and finding someone who is a better fit? While he is a great partner in college, it would be a deal-breaker if he fails to understand my views, not necessarily share in the long term when we're contemplating marriage and children. For more context, I'm high-functioning autistic, and he is neurotypical. My partner and I currently share different values, which isn't a problem now, but might be in the future. Should we break up if these differences could become significant issues later on? Story: My husband told me he also loves someone else. My husband, Grant, 33 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 12 years, married 3. We originally were living in my home state but moved to his after his parents' health started to take a decline. We've been living here for several years now. In that time I met a girl, 26 female, at work about 3 years into us moving, and after bringing her around me, my husband and her were all friends. We had a period where we didn't talk with her for maybe 2 years due to issues in our relationship with how my work was going, and her with a toxic friend group. TBF, we should have stayed and helped her out, but my husband and I were having a tough time barely seeing each other. Eventually we reconnected at the beginning of the year, and we would bring her out of her house to hang out and let her decompress from home life. A few months ago I noticed Grant was a lot more silent than normal, barely texting when we were at work and being somewhat physically distant. I eventually asked him what was wrong, and he said he was going through some mental issues. We both are diagnosed depressed, so I thought it stemmed from that. We made up, but there's still a very subtle hint of tension. When hanging or chatting in person, Grant is reserved, not as much in chat but definitely in person. I noticed in our friend chat he was the one more likely to initiate conversation than when it was just us, and I thought he was just trying to help keep her occupied. He initiated hangouts, which was weird because we were both home buddies. It started to nag at me when we would all hang out, and he would buy things for her too. I'm the one in the friend work group that people go to for advice, so I tend to pick up on things more than others, and about a month ago it sort of dawned on me that there was more than friendship there, at least from him. Recently, Grant was even more in his thoughts, and it was concerning me. I eventually got him to start talking, and at first he was very vague, and kept insisting he loved me. I didn't doubt that, but I had to guess he had feelings for someone, and guess again it was our friend. My heart sank when he acknowledged it, because it seemed like at first he couldn't admit it to himself. He eventually told me that he sort of figured it out when I confronted him about the distance, and had been battling with himself on how to tell me. He did insist he did not love me less, but loves her the same as me. I'll be honest, I'm probably still in shock and I'm not sure how to process. I feel like I should have been mad when he told me, but I can't bring myself to be. I'm not mad at her because she doesn't know. She's also in a relationship of her own and has never really expressed interest in anybody but the person she's with. And I understand people can love differently and the same for different people, we both just didn't think we would have to deal with this. I'm just not sure how to proceed. This man is the love of my life, and I don't think I can feel the same way I do for him as someone else. Leaving him isn't an option for me, I just need a way to navigate this. Story: I, at 28F, have been seeing my ex, 33M, and don't know if I should break it off or try to fix things. Ex 38 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that his physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Does any of this stand a chance? I feel insane even asking this, but at the end of the day I love this man. Any advice, words of wisdom or commisery is welcomed. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story: should I break up with my girlfriend? Hey, so this is complicated, but I will try to keep it simple. I am 27 years old and about 3 months ago I met 27 years old a girl and we hit it off right away. For some background, she is one of the first real relationships I ever had and I am used to being alone and mostly just keeping to myself. I live with my mom and enjoy video games, anime, and all things nerdy, so I'm that type of guy. Needless to say, this is all new to me and she also has 2 kids and an ex-husband, all of which she was upfront with me about. For the first few months everything was amazing, especially the S word. We were so passionate and I grew to really care for her and her kids, who in retrospect I may have met too early on. Anyway, I got sick recently and she has been going through a lot too planning this party for her and her family. She texted me today saying that she wanted space and is going through a lot and I assumed that meant I could get out of driving the hour and a half to her house to go to the family party and sadly that made me happy. The reason I say sadly that made me happy is because I feel guilty and bad that I was happy I had a chance to bail on that. Anyway, we had a long conversation tonight and I kinda told her I feel like we are rushing and I'm not ready for the commitment of everything due to some of the stuff I said in the first paragraph, how I am used to being a loner homebody. But she has been nothing but amazing and nice to me, and even helped me come out of my shell a bit. Even still, I can't help but think that eventually I will want to break up because someday she will want to move in together and have me take a big responsibility role with the kids, and I don't know if I will ever be ready for it. I expressed the exact paragraph above pretty much word for word to her, and she will says she wants to stay together and to not worry about the future and live in the moment. I tried to get her to break up with me, I guess, by making it clear I wasn't sure if we were going to last forever and wasn't ready for a long-term commitment. She has kids and other drama. She instead said she loves me and wants us to work out, making me think she is a prize and it would be selfish and I would regret it if we broke up because the only reason I want to is just so I can go back to gaming all the time and doing whatever the hell I want. And I don't think that's a good enough reason because overall she really does care about me, and I know for a fact a girl like that is hard to find because she is amazing, so I may regret it later if I end things. Story: Friend didn't invite me to his wedding. My 30 years old friend, 29 years old, got married last month. He hadn't really shared much in terms of his wedding plans with me, and I assumed was having a low-key event with just family, which is why I hadn't been invited, and I was fine with that. Until he sent me a text apologizing for not inviting me, and that the event was for family and friends only. His reasoning was that he couldn't invite me because then, by extension, he'd have to invite the rest of the community that we associate with. I told him family and friends only. Got it. We are Bengali, and there is a large Bengali community where we live, but neither of us are really involved in the community. The only real participation is attending a funeral of a community member. I thought that was a weak, flimsy excuse considering our minimal involvement with the community, and then I heard from a mutual friend that a few community members were actually invited and attended as his father is a big member of the community. In addition, some of the other friends he invited are those he met not too long ago, 1 to 2 years versus knowing me for 20 years. As a grown man, I'm a bit ashamed to say that this hurt me quite a lot. I thought we were super close since we talk on a weekly basis, hang out often, and have been friends for 20 years. I have a small family and very few friends. I considered him one of my closest friends, and he would always tell me things like, "I know you have a small family, but think of me and my family as your family." I feel like he could have invited me privately if he was worried about having to invite the community. Which he ended up doing anyway by inviting some members. Funnily enough, some community members were surprised that I wasn't there, and I told them I wasn't invited. My family was also hurt and offended by this situation and know his family very well. Friend still texts me on a weekly basis like nothing happened since we have many common interests. I hardly reply, hoping for some advice on how to go about things. My close friend didn't invite me parents to his wedding but invited other friends and other community members. Story: My BF of 4 years told me to find someone else if I want something long-term and that he doesn't believe in monogamy. I'm 26 years old, we've been together since I was 21 years old, he is now 31 years old. We've been together for 4 years in a monogamous relationship. I have a good job and have been stable since we met running my own business. He had a stable job, then 2020 happened, and he hasn't been stable financially until the end of last year. We also live together. We were discussing the future, and I don't even necessarily want to get married, but a promise ring would be ideal. He brought up having children about a year ago, which I would like to have some form of commitment if we were to go ahead on the child situation. I grew up in a broken home, as did he, and I wouldn't like the same for my children ideally. I expressed worries of being a single mother and he said, "You wouldn't be, we would co-parent and you have family and friends, you would be fine." He said no to the promise ring and that he could see being with me for about 5 more years, maybe longer, but not long-term. He told me, "If you want to be with someone forever you should go be with someone else." Which was very painful because this has been the longest relationship in my adult life. Apparently, he doesn't believe in monogamy, which is what I thought our relationship has been since the beginning. A lot of confusion with that because now I question if the last nearly 5 years I've been with this person was even real. I don't want to feel like a burden, and I don't know why he ever asked me to be his girlfriend if he doesn't believe in that kind of thing anyways. I'm just truly confused because it didn't feel like I was speaking to him, just a stranger or something. A rug has been pulled out from under me. We never fight or have conflict, and usually things are good, but I can't ignore this conversation. I feel hurt and duped, to be honest. Even in times of emotional need, he tells me to go to therapy instead of offering comfort. I feel that things went great up until the last year because I've had a lot of unexpected, uncontrollable situations that have been putting a strain on my happiness, not regarding the relationship, and everything hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. I'm at a loss. This has been a huge slap in the face. I thought we were on the same page up until now, especially when he brought up children. Is it so crazy to ask for a little commitment? Or delusional to want to grow old and have romance together? He's not much of a romance guy. I'm pretty sure he's just comfortable and not deeply in love with me. I could use some advice. My boyfriend of 4 years doesn't believe in monogamy despite our monogamous relationship and told me to go be with someone else if I want something long-term. Super confused because he brought up wanting children with me. I never asked for that or marriage. Story: we, 25M and 25F, need to change our entire relationship after a car accident. I don't know how to talk to her anymore. My 25 years old girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and we're talking about getting married someday when all of this happened. I am deeply in love with her, and want to know how to love her better while keeping myself sane about this. We met in college, where we were both loners, but connected over our love of running. Both of us are super into every aspect of this hobby, even more so than a lot of normal people who run. I gotta get into it all. Basically, we were both obsessed with types of shoes, the exact running times on certain local trails, niche techniques, water bottles, etc. Literally everything. And I'd met other people who liked running before, but not in the obsessive way I do/did. When I met her, it was like finding the other half of my soul immediately, as cheesy and cliché as that is. We built our relationship first as running buddies, and our entire relationship blossomed from there. We would go running together every day, and race each other in some of the most highly competitive races I've ever run. I think we've only ever skipped a handful of days every once in a while in our entire relationship. Our shared hobby is our life, and she is my whole life. We have so many memories on specific trails, and whenever we used to go out we'd talk about the latest news related to our shared interest, new sneakers that were getting released, new water bottles we wanted to try, crazy obsessive shit like that. Fast forward to the present. My girlfriend was in a massive car accident 8 months ago, and is paralyzed from the waist down. She is in a wheelchair, and it's been very hard on us both. All of the hard, scary stuff is over, but we're trying to settle back into our life, and literally everything is different. For one, we can't go running together anymore, and we might not be able to ever again. She's in physiotherapy, and the hope is that one day she will be able to run again, though not for a long time. I miss this aspect of our relationship so much. We are still partners in the sense that we share certain finances, and we have been learning how to go out on dates, even having to navigate all the accessibility checks around her wheelchair, but the thing we built our relationship on is gone, or at least won't return for a long time. We've tried going to some of the easier trails, and she wheels beside me while I walk, and it was nice the first few times, but I keep thinking how much it's not the same. And since everything happened, it bums her out to talk about anything related to our shared hobby, so we just don't anymore. This whole thing makes me feel terrible and sad and frustrated. Before all of this, we had the best communication in the world, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her feel like I'm blaming her, or like she's not enough. I don't love her any less. My 25 years old girlfriend 25 years old, and I fell in love through running. After a car accident, she cannot run anymore. I don't know how to talk to her about this. Story: I, 38M, am so exhausted, depressed, and beat down from never feeling attractive enough, even to my wife, 38F. How can I beat this feeling? I'm 38 years old, around 175 pounds, and right around 6 feet tall. I run and lift fairly regularly, and eat relatively healthy. I feel like maybe I could work on my midsection a little more, but I'm still in light athletic shape. I feel like I'm pretty average and plain in the face and maybe look a little young for my age. In the last few years, I've really invested time and money in skincare and think it has paid off. I get fairly expensive haircuts every month or two to keep looking nice. And yet after all of that I am still so insecure about my appearance. I look in the mirror and I just never like what I see. No matter how much I work out, no matter how well I dress, no matter how much time I spend with different hair and skincare products, I still feel like there's just something about me that's off, and still never good enough. Like I just look a little goofy and just a little out of the ordinary, as if there's a little something unexplainable that puts me into some weird territory. Part of what makes me think this is that I don't feel like there's ever any external cues to let me know that all of my work in taking care of myself is paying off. My wife doesn't pay me that much attention. I never ever get compliments from anyone on how I dress or how much working out has paid off. When I am by myself in public, women never give me a second glance. There's just so much that tells me that I am just not enough when it comes to this. I know that a lot of people will say that attractiveness comes from other things as well. How funny a person is, how charismatic they are, stuff like that. I am feeling fairly confident about that too. I am a little shy and introverted until I get to know someone, but after that I feel fairly sure that I am charming and funny and caring for people. I just don't get it. I wish there was anything at all to tell me that I had some worth in terms of my appearance. Not having anything to go on makes me doubt myself and even hate myself at times. I know that things like this are supposed to come from within, but I feel like if I am only ever telling myself that and no one outside of my own biases ever tells me anything, it's just a delusion on my part. Story: my brother is abusing drugs and breaking the law. I don't know what to do. Hello, I am 23 years old. My brother, 18 years old, was just caught by me and my parents doing hard drugs yesterday right after a cop came to our house to give him a warning because he got caught violating his restraining order by bringing an underage girl into the house. He started acting weird 6 months ago when he met a new friend group. My parents gifted him a car when he turned 18 and he crashed it, making it undrivable. He then started using my mom's car, which he then totaled, and then finally he stole my dad's brand new Tesla in the middle of the night with a bunch of underage kids and his friend Billy. Turns out he's the supplier, and drove it into a tree, totaling it. Since then he was been sneaking people into the house, mostly an underage girl 15 years old who's my dad's best friend's daughter, which he claims he's in love with. The family put a restraining order on my brother so they wouldn't contact each other, but they still do, and he got caught by the cops because she snuck into the house to bring my brother drugs. I discovered this because he left his Snapchat open on his computer after we caught him with the hard drugs. Ever since the first accident I had been begging my parents to give him consequences for his actions, but they continued to ignore my pleas until the final car was smashed. Since then, we have been arming the house with Ring cameras, sensors and alarms. As of now, my dad has probably spent almost $1,000 on new security alone. My parents are saying they want to section my brother Section 35 Massachusetts, but I really hope they actually put him in rehab or inpatient. I hope they actually go through with it. My brother was a quiet, sweet, and sensitive person with not a lot of friends before this happened, and now it's like talking to a zombie who won't stop lying. I don't know what to do with myself. I find myself getting angrier and angrier at him, and I feel guilty. He won't stop lying about everything with sometimes a shit-eating grin. Last night he jumped out of an 8-foot window in the middle of the night. I can't get a night's rest without an alarm going off, and am having extreme anxiety and paranoia. I don't know how involved I should be in this. I feel like a parent at times. I don't know how I should be reacting/treating my brother. I want to move out, but I feel bad leaving my little sister, 13 years old, to deal with this alone, and my dad also has been saying he doesn't want me to. I really do want to leave, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do. My brother is abusing drugs, smashing cars, messing with underage girls, and I don't know what to do. Story: am I overreacting that my boyfriend doesn't propose to me? Me, 31 years old, and my partner, 31 years old, are together for 7 years now, and we just bought our very first house last week. We have been together since we were 24, and we are not engaged, and I don't know if he ever want to propose because he's not really talking about it. Even when I ask him, we just arguing about it, so I never thought about marriage when I was younger, but then when we both turned like 26 to 27, I started to show interest about it, and at the same time everybody around us, All our friends got engaged, had wedding, expected their first child, etc. And I mentioned him that I want to get engaged before I turn 30. He never said anything. And I just kept repeating myself and he just kept saying nothing. I felt guilty and bad for mentioning and saying things like this to him because I didn't want to put pressure on him, but at the same time I wanted to know his thoughts and also let him know what I want. We were already saving up for deposit to buy a house, and once he said that after we have the house we want he can buy a nice ring and propose, but right now he doesn't have £5,000 to spend on a ring. I already knew what ring I want and that doesn't cost that much, and also I would never want him to buy me such an expensive ring anyway. So I told him this and I sent him the rings I like, and I told him he can choose which one he wants to propose with. I just wanted him to know I don't expect anything expensive, I just want to see that he is serious too, just like me. His answer was that if he wouldn't be serious he would not buy a house with me. This was like 2 years ago. Since that, every holiday we go on, every night out together, every birthday, every family events we go together, I think he'll do it, but nothing. People around us keep questioning him about it and he just says, oh, our plan is to buy a house first and then I can afford a ring, but it's not our plan, just his. But it's awkward for me and it makes me angry because I already told him I don't want expensive ring and I wanted to get engaged before 30. Every time we talk about this we just arguing. He gets offended because I say what I think and what I feel and then he doesn't really speaks to me for days. I just realized that we don't want the same things from life and it makes me sad. I'm 31 already and I don't want to say yes anymore to him because I feel he just ruined everything. I don't know what to do anymore because I can't have a serious conversation with him about this, and even if I would have one I feel nothing would change. I don't want to propose to him, that's just not me, and he would not want that either. I think the communication between us is very, very bad and I don't know how to fix it because I know if I mention this he'll not talk to me. I just don't want to wait anymore and I don't want to say yes anymore. And I hate this feeling. Even when I ask him we just arguing about it. Story, help should I, 23F, break up with my boyfriend, 28M, airing all our dirty laundry. My boyfriend, 28 years old, and I am 23 years old, have been officially together since February 2024. We started seeing each other in late September 2023. Though we did have an agreement to be exclusive and not see other people since October, we just weren't officially a couple, but by all merits we were one and we both agreed on that. This is the first relationship for both of us, and as a chronic overthinker, I struggle to differentiate between anxious and legitimate thoughts. My boyfriend partied a lot for 2 years and had a large, outgoing group of party friends and ravers. Initially, everything was great, with only a few minor arguments. However, January was a tough month. My BF went out for drinks with a female friend, Lena, who is his brother's ex, and she confessed her feelings for him. He immediately left and told me everything. But I was hurt because we had agreed not to have one-on-one outings with the opposite sex and because he didn't tell me beforehand. He explained that he saw her as a sister, as she had been with his brother for over 5 years and they had broken up only a few months prior. Although I forgave him, it triggered significant trust issues, and I started checking his phone with his permission. Afterward, I discovered messages from December where he and his friends discussed attractive women they saw while partying, and he made a comment about one, saying, "Too bad I can't." I forgave him again after he explained that his mentality was influenced by his friend group and their constant partying and festival attending. He also gave up the partying lifestyle and distanced himself from the toxic friend group to be with me and make our relationship work. In April, I learned that in December he had invited a female friend, Sarah, to a festival we were attending together in April with his friend group. I knew her as someone my BF's friend, Mike, was in love with and believed until then that the entire friend group had invited her. However, my BF gave me a false perception of her. She didn't know anyone from the group of 12 attending except for my BF, and while Mike was attending, he would be with his separate friend group. I also found out that my BF used to like Sarah before meeting me, though they had only communicated through Instagram and had never met in person. He had deleted his messages with her in January after the fight about Lena broke out because he said he knew any little thing would trigger me, which is true, TBH. My BF said they needed another person to fill an apartment vacancy and that he invited other friends before landing on her, but that before meeting me, they had already discussed her attending with his friend group. He promised me he didn't pursue her once his friend confided in him that he liked Sarah, which was before he met me. He said they only talked about parties infrequently since then. But now, I discovered that in January he invited her to another festival happening in July, supposedly for the same reason, vacancy. Despite repeatedly asking if there was anything else I should know, he always denied it. He said he forgot about it since it's been 6 months. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. He cut off all his female friends and the toxic friend group after what happened with Lena. Which he offered to do. It was not a demand I made. I never had a problem with female friends until it became one. And even then it was his choice to cut them off. I only wanted him to block Lena. I have seen the difference in him. He is loyal, prioritizes me, and promises on his late parent that he never wanted to cheat on me and that he only saw Sarah as a friend and didn't think anything of the invite. And while he has been great since then, I struggle to process the pain from those months and earlier. I'm unsure what to believe or if this situation is normal. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Yes, I was the first person he invited to these festivals, and the names are fake. Is what my boyfriend did acceptable and not grounds for a breakup, and am I wrong in feeling betrayed? Story: feeling unappreciated and neglected in 6-year relationship, seeking advice. My fiancé is 35 years old and I am 29 years old. Have been fighting more recently because his actions seem selfish. We've been together for over 6 years, but I feel like a broken record, constantly repeating myself without any change from him. I've asked him to learn how to cook and be more considerate in the bedroom. He doesn't cook at all, and when he tries, it's a disaster. In the bedroom, he always finishes, leaving me unsatisfied. Only recently has he started to clean up after himself because he was disgusted by his own bodily fluids. He hasn't matured much and still expects me to handle most things. When I went on a 6-month work trip, I hoped he'd learn to be more self-sufficient. Instead, he left the fridge untouched and didn't make any effort to cook, despite promising to make my favorite dishes. When I come home late from work in the gym, I often find him on the couch playing video games or watching TV, with nothing prepared. This frustrates me, especially since he doesn't take any initiative. Each year I've become more vocal about my needs and frustrations, which has led to more arguments. I feel like I'm talking to a toddler, reminding him to treat others how he wants to be treated. He often damages my things and tries to make up for it with money, but that doesn't solve the problem. I'm torn about whether to stay with him. My family loves him and I don't like to share anything bad about my relationships with anyone, even my friends. I can't imagine life without him, but I'm tired of feeling unappreciated and neglected. I'm seeking therapy to sort out my feelings and figure out the best path forward. I feel like I've tried everything and made every initiative. I'm tired of being set memes in hopes of me forgiving him. I wish he'd stop apologizing and actually solve problems with me. My fiancés and I have been fighting more. I handle most of the chores and feel unappreciated. He doesn't take initiative in cooking or in the bedroom. Considering whether to stay with him and seeking therapy to sort out my feelings. Story: was I right to stay in my marriage after discovering my husband's past behavior? Hi everyone, I've been reflecting on my relationship 3.5 years and wanted to get some outside perspectives. My husband, 27 years old, and I am 26 years old, dated for 2 years before getting married. During our dating period, I noticed he had a lack of boundaries with his female friends, which was a constant issue for me. He had been cheated on in a previous relationship, which led him to make several changes in his life, including maintaining close friendships with women. After living together for a month and loving each other's company, we decided to get married. Our long-distance relationship had been draining, so the decision felt right at the time. However, a few months into our marriage, I discovered that during a rough patch in our relationship, he had spoken badly and untruthfully about me to some of his close female friends. This happened several months before our marriage. My husband struggles with wanting to look good in front of his friends and finds it hard to say no to them. Learning about this past behavior was devastating for me. I felt incredibly hurt, angry, and disrespected, and I immediately considered separating, despite us only being married for 4 months. When confronted, he begged for another chance, assuring me that he had been loyal and respectful of boundaries for the 3 months leading up to our decision to get married. He promised to show me that he had changed and asked for forgiveness for speaking behind my back. Despite my anger and hurt, I chose to stay because I love him deeply, and I could see he was different from the man he used to be. Since then, he has stuck to his boundaries and has not crossed any lines with his female friends. It's been a year since that low point in our marriage. We are still long distance, but our love remains strong, and each day has been a journey of loving and learning about each other. While I don't regret staying, I sometimes wonder if I was right to stay from an outside perspective. Was it fair to myself to stay in the marriage after feeling so disrespected? Am I being unloving to myself for forgiving and moving forward? I would appreciate any thoughts or advice from those who have been in similar situations or can offer an outside perspective. Discovered my husband 27 years old spoke badly about me 26 years old to female friends during a rough patch before marriage. Wanted to leave but stayed because I love him and he promised to change. A year later, our love is strong, but I still wonder if staying was right. Looking for outside perspectives. Story: I, at 28F, don't know how to mend my relationship with my ex, 33M. Ex 33 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Any advice on how to leave, get over this, or even fix this is encouraged. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story: my 29F boyfriend, 28M, sexted another girl when we exclusive, but not dating. How can I move forward from this? My boyfriend Harry, 28 years old, and I am 29 years old, matched on Hinge in February, met in March, and started dating in May. On our second date, I asked him when was the last time he slept with someone else and he said 2 weeks. I had a friends with benefits Jake and I slept with him the morning I met Harry. I told Harry this because I didn't want to lie about it. Harry was visibly upset when I told him this, and when I told my friends later, they all agreed I should have lied about it. The woman Harry slept with before me was a 40-year-old friends with benefits Melissa that he met in 2023. I'm not sure how often they saw each other, but from how he describes it, he was basically a sugar baby. He cut things off with Melissa when he dated his last ex July 2023 to January 2024, but hooked up with Melissa after breaking up with his ex Nina. The way Harry describes Melissa makes her sound a little crazy. For lack of a better word, she would write him emails, send long texts, and leave voicemails for him. Harry's birthday was last Saturday and we were hanging out with his friends. A little after midnight, he received a phone call but didn't pick up. He said it was his mom who was calling. I thought it was strange that his mom would call him that late and that he didn't pick up. I asked him the next day if he called his mom back yet, but he told me it was Melissa who called him. I became annoyed because Nina, his ex, also texted him happy birthday. Nina still has feelings for Harry and has also been sending him texts throughout our entire relationship. He would either ignore Nina or would give really short responses. I'm not a jealous or insecure type of person, but I became upset because I knew if the situation was reversed, Harry would be upset at me if an ex kept texting me and I didn't block them. Basically, I became upset out of principle, if that makes sense. Because I felt like Harry was being a hypocrite. I thought to myself, Why does he expect me to block my previous partners if he hadn't taken the initiative to do the same? So I ended up asking Harry to block both Nina and Melissa. He agreed to do so, but I was still annoyed that I had to ask him to do this, when I had cut things off with Jake willingly the day after I met Harry. While Harry was sleeping, I looked through his phone to make sure he blocked them. I ended up finding texts of Harry sexting Melissa about a month after we met. We technically weren't officially dating at the time, but we were definitely exclusive and had talked about being exclusive. I clearly remember that night he sexted her. I was asleep because I had work the next day, but he went out drinking with his friends and was drunk. His messages said things like, "I want to fuck you right now," and "You want me to fuck you like last time," but when he was sober the next day, he stopped responding to Melissa. In early June, Harry sent 2 messages to Melissa, but it showed up as unsent on his phone. I'm assuming he drunk texted her again, but I'm not sure if he unsent the messages when he was drunk or sober. I confronted him about what I saw. He took full responsibility for what he did and wasn't even mad that I looked through his phone. He explained he had always been insecure and upset at me sleeping with Jake the day we met. I agree that it's weird to sleep with 2 people in the same day, but I slept with Jake before I met Harry. When he texted Melissa in April, he said it was because he was drunk and really upset about the whole Jake situation. He said he has no idea what he sent to Melissa in June or why he texted her, but he's guessing he was upset at me when he was drunk that day. Harry explained that all of his behaviors came from his insecurities and wanting to have a backup plan in case I ever left him for someone better. He said this was the reason he never blocked Melissa, combined with the fact that she would buy him things. He said that although he was texting Melissa those things when he was drunk, he didn't actually mean them. He never texted her when he was sober. Story: spouse is a chronic complainer. He does not see it this way. What is normal? I'm 33 years old. Spouse is 31 years old. Spouse complains about lack of sleep constantly. He's a chronic complainer but doesn't see it this way. What is normal? For context, we have an almost 3-year-old and my husband works from home. Since our child has been born, he's been the primary caretaker because I leave to a medical office Monday through Friday for work and am home by 4 p.m. to take over. He works overnight. He absolutely refuses outside help even now with his mom who's recently moved into town. He essentially has to function off of at best 3 to 6 hours of broken up sleep spread across pre-shift and post-shift. I absolutely get it. I've acknowledged how crappy this schedule is and continue to make effort to provide him relief here and there, like leaving early from work, taking PTO, etc. And genuinely, when I know for a fact he didn't sleep well or had a terrible day where he has to function off of the bare minimum, I don't care if he says a complaint or 2 about being exhausted. However, this is an everyday thing. It is the theme of our conversation 80% of the time. If it's bath time or having family time, it's an ever-revolving wheel of very negative ick about grocery shopping. I'm exhausted. And usually his complaints tie to our child. He woke up too early this morning and I'm too exhausted, then rants about how he doesn't know how he's going to function for work. Or it's I couldn't sleep well because of their tantrum. The big picture here is that the reason why he's not getting enough sleep is because of our child's schedule. Just like any parent. But to complain about it nearly all day and all night long. Last winter he spent the entire 3 months complaining on how cold it was, begging every night for the summer to get here. He complained nearly every single day and night how it affected his back, and he'd at least once a day make a comment about praying to the God for summer to get here. We live in a southern state, so once it got here it was hot. What does he end up doing? Complains every day how hot it is. How miserable he is. How he can't work in the garage well because of how hot it gets in there. He works in the garage to take meetings so he doesn't wake up our child, and now I've had a bad taste in my mouth because, didn't you ask for this? He's also extremely unpleasant to be around in these state where he's in his complaining mode. I want to know, am I just being insensitive? He says that his entire childhood family did this. They'd just complain to each other as if it was a fun pastime hobby or something. In my household growing up, it was seen extremely negatively. You'd come off ungrateful as a non-doer and nut up shut up type household. I need some desperate insight. I have tried the shoulder or solution. His answer to that was he never wants a solution. He just wants to complain. Is chronic complaining totally normal? Again. He doesn't even use the word complaining. He sees it as a fun pastime and a way to be supported. Story, I, 20M, cheated on my GF, 20F, of 2 years about a year into our relationship. I honestly never thought I'd cheat on anyone in my life. After my first girlfriend, I never cheated and I plan to keep it that way. Me and my GF both go to college together. I've been dating my current girlfriend since October of 2022, and around August 2023 I cheated on her with a hooker. That night I had just discovered an escort website and I didn't know one existed for my area, not even planning on going to meet one. I started texted them seeing if I could get a response. Just since I was obviously horny and my GF was asleep in her apartment, most were fake, but when I noticed one was real, I fucked up and decided to drive to the motel location she sent. Once I got there I, not blaming anxiety but freaked out and thought I had to go through with it since I was already there. This woman was much less attractive than my GF and she gave me head and we almost fucked. I didn't want to, she was so unattractive to me, but I ejaculated in the condom the entire time before anything could happen. I left and the entire way home felt like the worst person alive. I got home immediately, showered, threw up, and laid in bed thinking about what to do. At the time I decided the best thing to do would just be to not tell her, as it would just create distrust in a relationship which is very trusting and great right now. I thought I would be able to just forget about it and commit myself to being a better man and never doing anything like that again, and I still stand by that and have tried to improve myself as a person this past year in the relationship and in general. However, anytime I'm alone or not busy, I find myself just non-stop thinking about what I did to her, who the longer I'm with her, the more I love her and feel awful about what I did. I feel like I need to tell her what happened. She's generally understanding, but nothing like this has ever happened between us before. I can't decide to tell her or not still. I could just continue living with it, but I don't know how long I could do that for. I know for myself I'd never do it again, but it's just impossible to prove that to her. Just looking for advice, love her and don't want to lose her, but I don't know what to do. I just want to sit down with her and explain what happened and her forgive me, but I don't know since she's such a large part of my life now. I don't want to lose her. Story, mentally drained from family, so problems. I can't take it. How do I make it stop? I am 31 years old, felt like I had a nearly perfect life. And I was always seen as the perfect daughter. Then I met my first boyfriend, 30 years old, and it felt like he made my life better. And then it went downhill. I'm not sure if I need advice or just moral support, I just feel overwhelmed. I keep having fights with him and my parents in their 60s, and most often than not I am not the initiator, and I hate it because it's like I'm never allowed to have peace anymore. If my isn't picking fights with me, it's my parents picking fights with me about him. I feel helpless, drained and like I want to cry. I don't know what to do. My heart aches. It's like the only time I'm truly happy now is at work when I'm away from everyone I love. My parents told me they hate him, they can't stand him, they want me to dump him and they say he's going to ruin my life. It doesn't matter what he does, they find a way to criticize him and remind me of how much they hate him. I've been with him nearly 2 years, is constantly thinking negative about them and has insulted them to my face. We've had big fights over this when he has episodes. And I don't think he likes them much in general anymore. The truth is I love my a lot and he does make me happy, even if my posts don't always reflect it. I love being in his arms. He's my best friend. And I miss him when we're apart. We have fun together and he does try to take care of me. But he has some mental health struggles and that's led to emotional abuse toward me during episodes and that makes me miserable. It got really bad. Long story, something happened that my parents got involved and while the situation between me and has since improved, his episodes are less and he's worked to improve. Their relationship with him is strained. My relationship with my parents in turn is not as good as it was because I've stand up for him when I thought my parents were being unfair, just like I've stood up for them when I thought he was being unfair. This is getting to be too much. I feel depressed. I feel drained. Anxious. Everyone is breaking my heart. I want peace. Can it get better? How can I find peace? What can I do? I feel hopeless. My parents and BF don't like each other and they all keep picking fights with me, making me miserable. What can I do to make it stop? Story, my M29 girlfriend, F29, is continually getting upset at me. I am 29 years old, recently began seeing a girl 27 years old from Mexico. Lately, I dread going out with her because there's always an issue. This week, I added her to my gym membership and yesterday invited her to go work out together. We were supposed to meet outside at around 5:30 p.m., but she didn't arrive until about 6:15 p.m. and since she doesn't have a phone right now, I had to wait outside the entire time. After our workout, I went to change while she finished jogging. She asked if I was going to take a shower because she was, and I said no. I asked if she minded if I waited next door at a bar where my friends work at, assuming she'd be 20 to 30 minutes, but she got annoyed, so I waited outside the changing room for her. After 15 minutes, she came out, and I suggested an Uber to her place. She got mad we weren't going to the bar next door. I explained I thought she'd be longer, which is the only reason I mentioned it, and didn't mind going, but that I couldn't stay late as I needed to be up early. She gave me attitude and was dismissing me, so I just ordered the Uber. At her place, I stayed longer to let her cool down, and we talked outside. She accused me of not wanting to be seen with her and not communicating properly. I explained I never planned to go out after the gym and had told her I wouldn't be able to stay out late. She accused me of lying since it was 10:45 p.m., saying we had time to go out the bar. I told her I stayed to let her cool down and talk and that I originally planned to be home by 9 p.m. because I'm usually asleep by 9 p.m. and wake at 5 a.m. We talked for almost an hour, and when I went to call a taxi, she accused me of always running away whenever we talk. I explained I had to be up early and she insisted she knew that, and wasn't trying to keep me. I eventually called the taxi and left, getting home after 12 p.m. and did not fall asleep until after 1 a.m. I don't know what to do anymore. No matter what I do, she finds something to be upset about. Do I just end the relationship? Or is it this salvageable? The following are just a few of the things she's accused me of or gotten upset over. Got upset after our first date because she saw me out with a female friend a week later. Got upset when I invited her to my place to go for a walk in a nearby park to see a lake she said she wanted to visit. Supposedly I wasn't respecting her integrity as a woman and people may get the wrong impression. This was before we were official. Upset that I wasn't picking her up and dropping her off for our dates, even though I don't drive. Didn't hold her hand while walking. I stopped by a bar after work where my friends work and she accused me of going there to spend time with my ex since she also works there, wasn't working there that night. Got upset when I told her I wish I could run my hand across her body supposedly after 2 months of seeing each other. That's too intimate of a thing to say. Got upset when I indicated that her skin tone was slightly darker than mine and she accused me of being racist towards South Americans after she was just comparing the fact that I get sunburnt and she doesn't. Walked ahead of her after an outdoor movie where I got bitten over 40 times by mosquitoes. I wanted out of there. My girlfriend is continually getting upset at me and accusing me of things. I really like her, but I'm at my wit's end. Story: my boyfriend, 25M, is not who I, 25F, thought he was. How do I move on from this? I don't even know where to start. I feel like my whole worldview has changed. First of all, I know that every year starts with my boyfriend is the most lovely person. And I thought the same. But just so you don't think I'm completely delusional, every person who has met my boyfriend or heard about some of the stuff he's done for me have loved him. He's usually very attentive, caring, plans nice surprises, emotionally supportive, affectionate, etc., etc. Genuinely felt like a book character written by a woman. My mom loves him too. It all started when he got demotivated and then very depressed because he wasn't doing well in his career. I was worried about him and our future TBH, so I was encouraging him to apply to jobs, etc., to which he said he would, but still have very little motivation. Anyways, long story short is I was constantly reminding him and asking if he's been applying, and I guess he got stressed out because he basically lied to me and said he was applying to stuff when he didn't. He lied about this a few times over a couple of weeks. He knows it's wrong, so he's not justifying it, but he explained in his brain he thought by not disappointing me and saying he already did something would give him motivation to actually do it. Anyways, I thought this was very out of character, so I decided to forgive after a bit of arguing, etc., but in the back of my head I felt like something was off and I couldn't trust him, so I dug through his phone, which for the past 10 years I've had access to. He shared all his pins and passwords to me. While digging, I found a conversation this happened 6 years ago with a friend who was a girl. They discussed some sexual stuff, not sexting, but more like I like this, and later things like, I would like to do this with my GF, or we're both switches. But she also divulges quite a lot of sexual stories. He doesn't react a lot to them. She goes, I've shared a lot of secrets, now it's your turn. And he shares that when he was young way before he met me he experienced a hand job from another guy. I've literally never heard this story and I just feel very betrayed. I've had chats like these with female friends and gay guys, but I don't think it's ever something I've shared with a straight guy friend 1:1. I get that he made the existence of me very very plain, but just feels odd. I feel like boundaries were completely crossed in telling other people things that I don't know feels like emotional cheating. Anyway, I'm going to confront him and very likely leave. But I just want perspectives. Or like advice from people that have had something similar happen to them. I know it's 6 years ago, but I feel like I don't know him anymore. I'm so perplexed because this doesn't match with the person I thought I knew at all. Shy, reserved, very loving, telling me he misses me every day, writes love letters, gets giddy when seeing me kind of person. How can you fake being so in love for the last 10 years? Any pearls of wisdom very greatly appreciated. Boyfriend of 10 years spoke about sexual topics not on a sexting way with a female friend. And spoke about a sexual encounter from before he met me that I didn't know about. I'm likely going to leave, but how do I deal with this? Any other perspectives? Story: the guy that I'm in 24F seeing is starting to act weird and I need help out of this situation. I think I've made a mistake. I have gotten myself into a really bad situation. I was desperate for what I thought was the type of love I needed to feel normal, but now I want absolutely nothing to do with this man or romantic relationships anymore in general. I do not look like an adult. It's genes. My whole family looks way younger than their actual age, with people thinking my mom is my sister sometimes. I look underaged, and have had people guess anywhere between 14 to 18. When I was in Florida about a month ago by myself for vacation, I even had people asking me where my mom was, and the security people in the airport pulled me aside to ask me if I was traveling with anyone. I am not particularly short, but have a very skinny build, ridiculous baby face, and braces, which doesn't help with everything. Nobody can ever guess that I am my real age. I try to hide it most of the time honestly because I'm starting to feel a certain way about getting older. I am not saying this to brag, but it is relevant to what I'm about to explain. Because of how I look, I usually only get hit on by two types of guys. The first group are obvious teenage boys who think I'm their age, and the second is older, usually middle-aged men for whatever reason. There is no in-between. Rarely does any guy my age actually flirt with me, probably because they think I'm younger. This used to really bother me because I am not interested in teenage boys for obvious reasons: age, maturity difference, and because they scare me tbh, and older men who hit on me in that context creep me out. No matter what I did, it wouldn't change. I tried to dress more sexy, but that's not me at all. I don't like dressing sexy and it makes me look awkward. I have a very particular, girly way of dressing that involves a lot of pink and pastel colors. Probably doesn't help, but I can't help what styles I'm attracted to. About 7 months ago, while I was out at the library, a guy approached me while I was sitting at a table reading. He started flirting with me, asking me about what I was reading, and said he thought I was very cute. We ended up exchanging numbers. I admit I was a bit flattered by the attention, and he was cute, so I thought why not, I'll call him just to see what he's like. He looked to be maybe in his early 30s, which isn't too old for me to date. I called him the next day, and we started hanging out a lot. He took me on dates, and we went on walks, and to other nice places. I found out his age on the 4th date. He is actually in his mid-40s. We didn't label ourselves as anything at first. Despite his age, he was really nice to be around. He didn't demoralize me for my more childlike interests, or way of clothing or anything. He actually would buy me clothes that matched my aesthetic: stuffed animals, Disney things. Yes, I'm a Disney girl, and called me his baby, little girl. I thought it was just a cute little pet name. I didn't feel weird around him, I actually felt like there was finally someone who understood me. But everything changed when he found out my age about 3 weeks ago. Yes, I never mentioned it, because he never asked, and didn't seem to care. He started making these weird comments about my age. How when I eventually turned 25 everything goes downhill from there. He keeps asking me if I would stay the same for him, his baby girl. He's cold but affectionate at the same time, which confuses me. Now he wants me to do all of these role-playing things, and to call him daddy, which I've never done. I'll be getting my braces off soon. I was really excited about this because I've had them in my mouth for years, but he seemed disappointed, and said that maybe I should prolong my appointments, keep scheduling out, because they're a part of me that he really likes. I am starting to get a weird feeling about him, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. I feel like maybe I want to stop dating hanging around him, but we've been together so much that even when I tell myself not to respond any more to his calls, I always end up calling him anyway. If I don't respond after so many hours, he'll show up to my house, which is bad, because my mom I still live with her knows nothing about him, and I don't want her to find out about him. And even though he makes sometimes hurtful comments about my age, I'm attached to the way he's made me feel. How he's made me feel normal for my other interests, and liked. I have never been in a relationship before, and I thought I wanted one. But I honestly don't want to be bothered by men anymore, at least right now. I feel stuck and torn. I'm sick of being in a tug-of-war between his coldness and affection. I told him yesterday that I needed a break, but he blew up at me. I don't think he'll leave me alone, and I don't know what else to do. I feel like life won't be the same without him, but I also feel so exhausted, and I don't think this is what relationships are supposed to feel like. Is there a way that I could talk to him to make him understand my perspective? I'm thinking maybe we can still be semi-distant friends who occasionally hang out if he stops making comments about my age and my appearance, which is honestly not flattering to be told I look like a little girl. I'm trying not to get my mom or brother involved, who I know will start seeing red and make the situation worse. I am starting to feel weird about the guy I've been dating. He made me feel understood and appreciated at first, but since he found out my age, is starting to act cold toward me, make comments about my weight, and calling me a little girl. I'm trying to cut down contact without things escalating and need some help. I have no experience in relationships. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.